The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Stopped.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back talking Mets baseball in the zone. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and the two mavens are here. Robert Cole first. Try it this way. See if that works. Robert Cole.
Yes, sir. Doing good.
All right. How are you? Marty Rose.
Very good, Ralph. Excellent. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad we're together, and I'm going to make sure not to push the wrong button this time, and let's have a good Mets show. We were talking a little bit off the air / on the air of the Mets injuries. Have either of you ever seen the Mets, or for that matter, any team in baseball, have this many injuries in this short a period of time and still be competitive, and not only that, in first place? Marty, have you?
Not that I can remember, Ralph. Definitely not. I am actually shocked that they're doing as well as they are. Some of these guys that are stepping up here are just incredible. Some of these names I've never heard of, and others are guys that bounced around up and down, did very little in their short careers to this point, but everybody's playing well. It's really unbelievable.
And not only well, but recovering from injuries at an incredible rate. Pilar is a good example of that. It may be Pilar, but the kid that got hit in the nose 2 weeks ago and is back playing, that's incredible.
He was out there with a mask last night, and he came in to play left field late in the game, and he had a plastic shield over his eyes and nose area. But he's out there. Yeah.
I want to address something with you guys. Rojas seems to be getting an incredible amount of bad press from the Mets fans on the social media blogs. He's got them in first place by 2.5 games. Where does the criticism come in? Start with you, Robert. What's the story with him?
No criticism for me. He's doing an excellent job. You know, he's several games he's had to manage with almost nobody on the bench. You have some fans and some of the Met sites where they want a name manager, and I don't see the reason. I mean, right now he's doing an excellent job. You just let things go.
Okay. Marty, anything that's negative that you can see?
Not by me, Ralph. No, I think he's doing a very good job. Just like Robert said, with his hands tied behind his back. I don't know how he's coming up with these guys. He's making all the right decisions as far as I can tell. The only criticism that I've seen on the social media sites is maybe pitching. You know, who he's bringing in, when he's bringing guys in, when he's taking starters out. But you know that is game to game, and you can argue about that with any manager in any game. But overall, how could anybody complain about what he's doing? It's like magic. They're in first place. It's incredible.
Yes. One of the guys that has been up and down in his career, a young guy who has really gotten off to a tremendous start, is McKinney. Are you guys as impressed with him as I am? He really can go get it in the outfield.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's a good outfielder. He has power. That's been known. He's a good fielder with power. He's never really gotten a chance. He's never gotten a full chance, a little bit because of injuries. But, so far so good, but small sample size.
Sure, exactly. Somebody wrote something, again, I'm influenced by the written word, even if it comes from someone who has no knowledge like myself. I'm impressed with anyone who can type. But they mentioned something about Syndergaard's, the possibility of it being the end for him as a Met. Do you think? I know they've got free agent decisions to make on him, extensions on Conforto. How do you think these injuries are going to affect the long-term signability of these guys?
Well, as far as Syndergaard goes, nobody is going to give him a long-term contract, no matter what he does the rest of this year. I mean, right now, he may not be back until late August, or September, or what they're saying, if that's possible. But even if he pitches well, what I'm thinking and what I've seen mentioned is that he's got to prove himself over a course of a year, and he could be offered that $18.9 million for 1 year, whatever it is.
Yeah, the qualifying offer, yes.
Right. They could offer him that, and if he's smart, he'll take it and prove himself. Then after that, if he does prove himself, and he doesn't go down again, then he can be looking at a longer deal, in my opinion, anyway.
So, similar to what Stroman did. Stroman sat out last year, which was his contract year. They gave him the qualifying offer, and he took it, and that was very smart on his part. So, Syndergaard may follow that same exact thing.
Right. Next on my list to ask you guys is, how great is DeGrom? Is this unbelievable? Can he 0.07 something ERA, some such incredible numbers? Have we just seen the beginning, or is this guy just Superman? Every outing is consistent for 2 years now, 3 if you exclude last year. He's been unbelievable.
Well, you can include last year, Ralph. I mean, in limited action, he was every bit as good as he usually is. So,
that's true. It just didn't shine that much because of the situation. That was a hybrid year, and as far as I'm concerned, they should have canceled last year. Speaking of which, people are attributing the rash of injuries to last year, and not only on the Mets, but in baseball, incredible amount of injuries, to last year's off year where these guys didn't stay in tip-top condition naturally, given the situation, the pandemic and what have you. That could be the explanation. I've read that, and it really does ring true. It's like a thoroughbred horse. You've got to keep him or her trained and running all the time. And that's just an aside, but I think that's a valuable tip as to why there are so many injuries.
Probably so.
Yeah, but not being an athletic trainer or a physiologist, you have to wonder, though, because, okay, the only thing that was different last year, it was a shorter season, all right? They didn't extend the season like they did in the NBA or the NHL, okay? They pretty much ended when they were supposed to end. They had the normal winter time. They had the normal spring training this year. The only outlier last year was
Robert, let me interrupt a second. It really wasn't a normal spring training. They had no split squad games, which meant that players had a limited amount of time to get it together, and that had, I think, that is a contributing factor as well.
Right, and they didn't play every day like they always did before.
Right,
played like 4 days and an off day, because they only played 4 different teams.
Yeah,
exactly.
well, that was the Mets. Those 5 teams in that part of Florida were the only ones that were.
I think, wasn't it every team in Florida?
No. It was They were sectioned off, and the Mets were in a section with only 5 teams. So somebody had to be off every day.
Yep.
Was the way that worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But like in Arizona, they played every day, and maybe you can say that. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, you still had them training. Again, I'll go back to like the NBA. I can understand there were injuries in the NBA, especially for the teams that went deep in the playoffs, because they didn't have their normal time off. Same thing at the NHL, but maybe so.
Well, I think you got to look at what type of injuries they are also, because I'm thinking like these hamstring injuries was just because guys weren't running enough. But you can't say that somebody that gets hit in the hand or gets hit by a pitch is because of lack of training. That's just on being unlucky.
Yeah, freak injuries, you can't account for them any year.
No. So, how many you can attribute to, lack of training? Like I say, I think the hamstring is pretty obvious. Maybe they didn't swing enough. You can get these oblique injuries from swinging the bat too hard, or just a lack of doing enough times, I guess. But like I said,
I've mentioned this before. You mentioned oblique injuries, but the word oblique injury wasn't even in Dusty Baker's head his entire career, when he never spent a day on the disabled list, and the word wasn't even discussed in baseball. And now it is a major source of problems with every team. And you hit it on the head, Marty. I think that's just swinging too hard.
Yeah.
You got to stay within yourself.
Home run or strikeout, right?
Right.
Too much weightlifting.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about my guy, Nito. Give him a little credit. He was always the best defensive catcher on the Mets since he got here. There was never a question about that. Even I, who backed this guy from the start, I'm surprised at his hitting. He's shown more pop than I thought he ever had.
No question. Yeah, he's been really good. He's in there tonight. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a day game tomorrow.
He is in there tonight, am I correct?
Yes, because they got a day game tomorrow, so he's in there tonight, and then McCann will be in there tomorrow. So.
Okay. McCann played first base a little bit before Alonso got back.
He played really well there.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Really, whoa.
Shocking.
Yeah, he made one play where he roamed over to where a second baseman should ordinarily be and just dove for the ball and got it back. He's not afraid to throw to the covering pitcher. And that really stood them in good stead, so to speak, last week when they were just incredible. What is it, 5 games in a row now?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, your opinions, your impressions. Start with you, Marty.
My impressions of what?
The entire season, how it's going. What do you see that?
Everything is going better than I personally anticipated. I think DeGrom is DeGrom. Stroman, I think, is doing better than I thought he would be. I was somebody that said he was no better than a 3 or 4 starter, but he's doing very well as a number 2. Taijuan Walker is shocking me. I never thought he was that good. I never knew that much about him. He's been very good, very good. Peterson has been up and down. He's had good games, he's had bad games. Things are going well. I mean, the next week or so, after this Arizona series, they've got 7 games with the Padres over the next 2 weekends, starting on Thursday. 4 out there and 3 in New York. So that's going to be very big. And then one bad thing that's coming up toward the end of June, they've got 3 double headers in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Yeah, they got 3 double headers in a week at the end of June because of all those makeup games.
Ordinarily that would be daunting for the bullpen, but what with these new rules, 7-inning double headers?
That's true. That
as
does
much
save
as
the bullpen. Yeah.
I don't like it. That's going to say you're right, exactly. So some of these rules that are being put in end up helping a specific team along the way, and they don't get to complain about it. But I really feel ripped off by the practice of 7-inning doubleheaders, split doubleheaders being 7 innings, so a fan only gets to see a painful, right?
That's terrible. That really is terrible.
Right. Yeah. And what's really terrible is not only do they have a guy on second, starting on second in doubleheaders in extra innings now, but they're experimenting in, I think it's the Pioneer League, with the idea if there's going to be extra innings, they're going to settle it with a home run derby.
I can't possibly believe that that's going to ever happen.
No.
How ridiculous is that? Seriously.
Well, you're talking the same story that we talked 2 years ago about putting a guy on second when they were experimenting in the minors with that. How could that go? Well, they're throwing stuff at us. You got to digest some of it, and pretty soon you start going, well, there's something, a doubleheader, or an extra inning game. You started on second, that's exciting too, and you make it an unearned run and all that stuff. They're bastardizing the damn game. That's just as slowly but surely they're doing that, and I don't like it. If you were here, you'd see me stomping my foot. But you can't do.
I can't believe they'll ever do that, Ralph. Honestly, the home run derby. That is really completely off the wall. I just can't see it.
Okay. We'll take a clip out of this show and play it back for you in 2 years, because I'm sure there's a clip in this show or some show where my response when I heard initially back then, a couple of 3 years ago, heard the idea that they're going to put a guy on second and just put him out there. I responded the same way. I can't believe they're going to do this. And I'll ask you guys, will there come a time, and I asked Eric Lindemann this exact question on a show the other day. Will there come a time where, I asked him, he's a baseball fanatic like we are, can they do something like one day we get up, that's enough, Dianu, we're not, I can't do this anymore. What will it take? And with your response today, Mert, I can't believe they're going to make a home run derby. Would that turn you off to the game totally?
Yes, that would.
Okay.
That's not part of baseball. All right, I can understand this guy on second thing. Okay, that could happen with the guy leading off, getting a double to lead off. That could easily happen. But what they're talking about is it's not the game at all. There's nothing about it. It's just a sideshow.
Right. Robert, would that be the straw that broke the camel's back for you?
Unfortunately not. Baseball is baseball. I've always loved baseball. As much as we bitch and complain, and I think 2 years from now, if that happened, Marty will still be bitching and complaining and still watching. Okay, that's just the way it is. We went through. Okay, the first thing that happened was the intentional walk. All right, how can they do that? That's gonna, you can't do that. Okay, well, they did it, all right? And then, they're going to put a guy on – they can't put a guy on second base in extra innings. Come on. Well, they did that. 7 innings, doubleheaders, what are they, nuts? They're bastardizing baseball. You can't do that. Well, they did that, and we're still watching. We're bitching, and we're moaning, but we're still watching.
All right, well, any chance that they go back to what they were doing a couple of years ago, like, when this COVID thing is over and next season nobody's even talking about it anymore, will they go back to 9-inning doubleheaders? Well,
my own personal opinion is no.
No?
Okay? No. I don't think so. That's my own personal opinion, okay? I haven't heard that from anybody. But you got to remember, these are things that Manfred has been wanting to do. And when COVID came along, he was able to do these things, just like, the minor leagues, all right? Mm-hmm. If COVID hadn't come along, I don't think he would have been able to do the minor league thing. But, that happened. COVID came along, okay, and he snuck these different things in. So, I don't think the 7-inning doubleheader is going away, and I don't think the shortened extra innings is going away. I might be wrong, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Eric Lindeberg, who was on my show the other day, mentioned something incredible. You mentioned minor leagues, and he called our attention to the fact that there are 5 rounds in the minor league draft right now. So what are the great athletes doing? They're going to other sports to get much more of an opportunity. 5 rounds. Mike Piazza was the 500th some odd pick, last round pick, last guy in the last round. And thanks to chemistry, this man was able to achieve what what no man has achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, to his chemists, give him a big hand. Joe Moskowitz has been shooting up players in the National League for 15 years, and he's going to retire this year. No, he's not. But chemists don't get enough credit in this game. Anyway, there'll never be another Mike Piazza. There will be the last player chosen, Mr. Inconsequential or whatever, but there's a lot of good players that won't get the opportunity to play in the majors because of the reduction in teams in the minors. And there's a lot of the spirit is killed for baseball when kids in small towns don't get to see baseball being played, and they don't live in LA or San Francisco or whatever, and they don't get to develop fandom by going out there and seeing the game played. So that's a major consequence. And all these things that we're talking about are going to result in a lower level of play in the majors. And it is so sad that that's going on, because physically we're seeing guys come into the game that can do, with or without these baseball training, how to hit and run, this, that, and the other. They're athletically so blessed that you see guys doing things on a daily basis that we would go, that's the play of the year when we were kids. So the fact that they're missing out on really becoming complete players and giving the fan the package that we deserve sucks. I'll just put it that way. Nothing you could say at the end of a rant.
What has developed, though, is independent leagues again. There's a lot more independent leagues than there were, and that's going to be like the lower level classification of baseball. And these guys, there'll only be 5 rounds of draft, but that'll allow a lot of these guys to go to teams that they want to go to. It's not that they're cutting these guys out of the game. It's still going to be there. It's just going to be in a different form.
Yeah, and the different form isn't better for baseball. It's worse for baseball overall. That's all. That's my take. Good, bad, or indifferent. Hey, former Met wasn't known for being a Met. He was known for being a Dodger. Dr. Mike Marshall passed away recently in the last day or so.
Oh, really?
So,
did he?
Yeah, 78 years old. Speaking of guys who were geniuses, he knew more about the insides of pitching. He became a doctor, studying his own
physiology.
Physiology, studying his own body. I think I remember him talking about that at the time. So rest in peace, Mike Marshall. Also, want to make note, Sweet Lou Piniella is struggling. He's got some sort of cancer, unidentified cancer. So I hope he gets to beat that.
Yep.
Yeah. Mortality continues to suck, pandemic or no pandemic.
Yes, it does.
And the older we get, these guys are getting, we're surprised, but the age we've lived that 20 years ago, people would have taken that. This is good that that we've survived. We just have to keep it going another 20 years to be totally satisfied.
Well, we'll see about that. I don't know.
All right. Well, the attempt is what we're looking for, Marty.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Just yes. Robert, your impressions of the Mets, like I asked Marty, what do you see that you could add to this discussion?
Oh, well, like Marty said, I mean, surprising, happy. They're going to have, there's a lot of moves they're still going to have to make as guys come back. Marty gave us a whole laundry list yesterday about all the moves that they had to make, and that was just a small amount of the moves that they're going to have to make. They're so tight on the 40-man roster that, if they want to add somebody, they have to DFA somebody. They DFA'd 2 guys yesterday, and I didn't hear whether or not anybody else picked them up. But so far, every player that the Mets have DFA'd, hoping that they would pass through waivers and be able to put them back in Syracuse, another team has taken them so far. Mm-hmm. So
that won't be the case with Maben. That won't be the case with Maben.
Probably not. Probably not. He'll probably pass through, and hopefully, for his sake, he goes to Syracuse. But I don't expect Sam McWilliams to pass through waivers. I mean, there were a number of teams that wanted him when the Mets signed him before spring training, so I'm sure he'll be gone. So it's going to be very, very tough. And then the couple of guys that the Mets have added recently, like McKinney, for instance. Okay, what happens if and when everybody comes back? How do you keep these guys? So Sandy Alderson and the acting GM going to have a lot of decisions to make, of how they go through this, because most of these guys can't be sent back to the minors.
Right. Let me ask you guys about Lindor. I don't know how else to word it. Is he going to be able to work his way out of this? Because a third of the season is basically gone, and he doesn't show very much signs at the plate of at all coming together. And what if, God forbid, he becomes Donnie Bosch?
Or Jason Bay or Bobby Bonilla. But to be fair, you have to give him the season. You really do. You have to give him the season and see what happens. Now, if over the last 2 or 3 months of the season he plays like he was expected to play, all will be forgiven. So, that's why I say you have to give him the rest of the season. Last couple of games, okay. According to Keith Hernandez, he's starting to look a little better. So,
yeah, I think he did homer last night. I believe had two hits last night, but his defense is just superb. I mean, he's making every play out there that I've seen.
And he's a leader. I mean, he really is a clubhouse presence.
Yep.
So, I mean,
he has the smile on his face like he's enjoying it. I'll give him that. Not enjoying the circumstances, but enjoying playing. He doesn't seem like he's down.
No, he doesn't put his head down. He doesn't sulk. I mean, he's out there. He'll strike out like last night. He struck out, and then Alonso hit a 2-run homer, and he was the first one out there jumping up and down, greeting him. So, I mean, you have to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
That was a big moment, Alonso's homer. And when they came back twice the other day, I think they were ahead 3 runs, or they were behind 3 runs. They came back and tied it up. The other team, I think it might have been I don't know why I'm saying the Dodgers, but whoever it was, scored 3 runs, tied it up. Colorado.
The Rockies. The Rockies.
And they go ahead with a 3-run homer. Again, they won it. In essence, they won the game twice. And I think that if we look back at the end of the year and it goes the way we hope it will, we might be able to point to that game in particular. That was a terrific game. And that was an extra inning game as well. It was the first time I really got through an extra inning game intentionally and enjoyed it. Oh, there were times earlier in the year I went to extra innings, I turned it off no matter what game I was watching. So you're right, Robert. We'll get used to it, and then they can give us a little more. Because if it's in your blood, and it seems to be in our blood, it can't be denied, and you can't just not be a fan. So
another thing about Lindor, Ralph, is that he switched leagues and he hasn't seen a lot of these pitchers before. Now that they're starting to play teams maybe for a second time, and he's seen these guys before, he should start picking it up a little. But I'm sure earlier in the season, he's seeing pitchers that he never saw before, not even once probably. So that's something,
Yeah.
Oh, let me give Manafort a little credit. Everything he's done, despite this except this one thing, has been negative to baseball. But what he's done is come down on domestic abuse. So you don't see these guys like Acuna or whatever his name is, just got charged this week with domestic abuse. It's not just going to be blown under the table anymore.
Osuna,
Osuna. And not because he's not a Met. If he were a Met, I'd say the same thing. But he's cleaning up the game in that respect, and give him credit because
there was a guy in the Yankees that he suspended for a whole year, wasn't it? He just came back. Yeah, so that's right.
Yeah.
And the manager of the Mets last year, what's it, Callaway?
Right.
Callaway.
It wasn't domestic abuse, but it was some sort of inappropriate behavior, and he's out of the game for this year and next year.
Right.
And
he got fired. Yeah, he got fired by the Angels.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of guys that got fired, that whole garbage can thing with Houston was disgraceful, and both managers who were fired over this have now gotten their jobs back with other teams, and they're back in the saddle. I didn't think that was right. I thought that was blown over a little bit. That may come back and haunt baseball for a long time. Also,
well, you just complimented Manfred, okay? Well, Manfred deserves all the blame for that. Okay, that was handled atrociously. And, if it wasn't for COVID, okay, that could have really come back and hurt baseball and him. But, COVID kind of pushed that to the background, kind of saved everybody's asses, so to speak.
Yes. Thank God for COVID. It's a strange world.
Yep. One thing we have to do is we need to give Sandy Alderson a little more credit, okay? Because had he not done the things that he did, okay, this winter, bringing in these backups, okay, guys that were starters a couple of years ago, VR, Pilar, Peraza, okay, where would the Mets be right now?
Yeah.
But we were giving him credit all the way through. To our credit, we were recognizing him. We called it depth, and we were so delighted when they had the depth, and we missed it so much when the injuries hit. No preparing for 2 hamstrings in one game, as an example. And Syndergaard not coming back. And like Marty says, you can't prepare for an injury where a player gets hit. So,
right. Well,
you're right.
Didn't the Mets lose both their catchers a couple of years ago? Darno and whoever the second other catcher was?
Yeah, I think the game you're referring to is Blevins, when Blevins hurt his arm in the same inning as Darno got hurt. I could be wrong, but Blevins was doing really well as the lefty out of the bullpen. And all of a sudden he got hurt and Darno got hurt at the same time. That's what the hamstrings brought to mind for me. Who was it? Conforto, and who else with the hamstring?
McNeil.
Okay. Another guy who wasn't off to the best of starts and had just started to come around. So, but who is the person? Can either of you identify? Because I certainly can't. The person who is going to be the shining star. All these injuries, and you're going to go, well, we never would have known about him, or if it weren't for the injuries. Who's going to come up big? Who would you say, Robert?
Wow. There's so many names to plug in, and there's more names to plug in that we don't even know about yet. But probably VR. I think, he came in and he kind of gave a spark. He plays with abandon, and I would say him right now.
Yeah, I agree with that, man, because this guy Villar is so much better at third than J.D. Davis. I don't think J.D. Davis is getting his job back. I really don't think so.
No. Had he come back initially, before he had the setback, I think he was going to wind up playing the outfield again, like he did last year. Okay. Now they brought in, this kid McKinney, so I don't know what they're going to do with him unless he's going to be, a trade bait, later in the season.
Might have to be, yeah.
And you got Nemo coming back as well.
Eventually.
Yeah, Nemo, Davis with the hands and the 2 hamstrings, I don't know how quick they're going to come back. That's why they're kind of making some of these moves right now, because both Davis and Nemo tried to come back and couldn't. So, and there was a rumor that J.D. Davis was going to start rehab again today, and the manager last night said, no, it's not going to happen. He's not ready yet. So.
Well, no rush with him as far as I'm concerned. Really.
As Marty says, the defense won't be improved if he comes back, for sure. And the lower's hitting as well. That part is nice.
I would just say Davis is the better hitter overall, but Villar more than makes up for it with his defense. So if you're going, putting them up next to one another, at this point, I would say Villar should be the third baseman.
Yeah.
Talk to Dominic Smith. What's he about this year? A power shortage. But he seems to be hitting lately.
Yeah, he hit a couple of gappers last
a couple
night.
of double. Yeah.
But his lack of home runs are kind of interesting. I don't understand, but maybe starting to come out of it with those two doubles yesterday. So we'll see.
Yeah, he's been off balance. I mean, you just watch him, and he's even though he's gotten some hits earlier, they were because he's so strong. But again, listening to Keith Hernandez, he says a good sign is when a lot of these guys start hitting the opposite field, and then little by little they work their way back into their swing. Mm-hmm. So hopefully last night was a start for him, a start for Lindor, and hopefully Alonso can keep it up.
Mm-hmm. Here's a rhetorical question for you. Will any batting coach or any team develop a philosophy of simply beating the shift to win? I mean, can you see somebody teaching, hey, just go out there and hit them where they ain't. We really killer them to death. It would seem...
Dave Magadan. Okay, they had an interview with Dave Magadan the other day, and he still preaches that. He says he's all in on the analytics, okay, because analytics, give you an idea of how they're defensing you. He says, but it's still all about putting the ball in play, okay, and using the defense against themselves. So that's one guy. Now, of course, he may get fired tomorrow because of that, the way he thinks. But he's still teaching that, and he's a hitting coach.
Yeah. Hey, wouldn't you guys like to hear the expression "get him on, get him over, get him in"?
Yeah, it's kind of old-fashioned these days.
Right. Now, that's the baseball that I'm missing. Yep. It's not so much the innings, and it is a bunch the innings, but it's more the basic philosophy of it's a baseball game. Use your skills. That kind of thing. Speaking of skills, got to give credit to Robert's second favorite team, and that's Tampa. What do? Every player they have, it seems, every position player has no position and every position.
Yes.
They are all versatile to the point where you go, who plays better at how does the manager make the decision? And I'll ask you, how does Cash make a decision from day to day of who plays and who plays where?
Well, a lot of it is analytics. Okay, what guys can, handle ground balls. Okay, he puts certain guys in the outfield when he's not going to get, doesn't have a ground ball pitcher pitching. He puts other guys in the infield when he does have a ground ball pitcher pitching. He absolutely uses analytics to the imp. Okay, he takes guys out, like we saw with Snell last year. But, I mean, that's the way he manages. He takes guys out after 4 or 5 innings. They only threw 50 pitches. They're throwing a shutout. He takes them out, brings in another guy. I mean, and it's all about analytics. And he plays it, right down the line. If you go back to that series when the Mets and the Rays played, okay, what a contrast in the two teams. You have the Mets who they have injuries, but they would have the same lineup, the same guys out there every day in their positions. The Rays have only had 2 games in a row where they had the same lineup all year.
Whoa. Incredible. Hey guys, I hate to cut it short, but it isn't short. We're really reached the end of the time. This is a terrific show, as opposed to last week where I had a stretch. They were playing so poorly, and it's amazing. It's a week to week thing.
Manic depressive, Ralph. Manic depressive.
Right, up and down.
Always more to talk about when they're doing well. So,
and more fun to talk about it too. It's always fun to talk to you guys. Robert Cole, Marty Rose, thank you for having the best Met podcast on the internet. You guys are great.
Thanks, Ralph.
Thank you, Ralph.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tyko, the weak link of it all. Adios and happy trails.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.